You want this, Maria, or?
Oh, I'll take it. Thank you.
The one heater, if you look in the, when you walk in the front door,
Yeah.
on that wall,
Well, it's
that heater kept cycling, short cycling, and I looked at it and the thermostat's hanging off the wall. So I don't think they do. It's cold in there.
Man.
They need a new building.
We're not doing team.
I think we are. No. Yes, the purple. I'm on a 37-day spree.
I had a guy that said to me, you want to
I feel like I
do
have 2 waters.
48 now.
I was like, well, I'm gonna grab this one. It's on this side. Let's-
4 miles an
You
hour
wanna give Bob?
for
Wait,
12
I'm
hours.
confused.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Why would you do that?
Wait, Mike Thomas. That'd be tough.
Yeah. He says it'll help you lose weight, and he's training for an Ironman or something. But 4 miles an hour is pretty brisk. That's 15-minute mile.
Yeah, I used to run 6 miles an hour.
Howdy.
7 to 10 minute mile.
Well, I do 2 miles. Jan and I do 2 miles in 42 minutes.
You're walking a lot.
Walk fast walk. No, not on a treadmill. I'm sorry, fast walk. Fast walk.
Try my best.
Just go through our schedule.
It's pretty easy when it's cold. I don't feel like doing it.
Okay, you want to go ahead with
Yes, another 1 to 3 inches.
Alright.
Okay, that's fair.
just drop the numbers.
Are we told Dave on the speed. He did pretty good. It's interesting.
We everybody?
Yep.
Okay. Good evening. We're going to begin the council meeting for February 8th, 2021. We'll begin by reciting the pledge and followed by a moment of silence. Thank you. Mr. Thomas, roll call, please.
Certainly. Mr. Delaney?
Here.
Mr. Dern?
Here.
Mr. Doyle?
Here.
Mr. Hadley?
Here.
Mr. Odom?
Present.
Mr. Pastor?
Here.
Mr. Vento?
Here.
Mayor Schlegel?
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, sir. Motion to approve the treasurer's report for the month of January.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Doyle,
Seconded.
second by Mr. Dern. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Motion to approve the expenses for the month of January.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Doyle,
Second.
second by Mr. Hadley. Mr. Thomas, if you would, please.
Certainly. General fund payables requiring council approval, $649,153.69. Street improvement fund payables requiring council approval, $12,304.63. Fire fund payables requiring council approval, $15,408.47. Capital improvement fund payables requiring council approval, $87,077.10. Flood mitigation fund payables requiring council approval, $168,223.26. Emergency medical services payables requiring council approval, $2,070.26. 2019 bond fund payables requiring council approval, $575,644.18. Purchasing car direct vendor payments, Republic Services, $168,108.20. Miscellaneous borough purchases of $178.11, for total payables to be approved of $1,678,167.90.
Having received a motion and a second, would you vote to approve the expenses for the month of January? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Motion to approve the January 11th, 2021 council meeting minutes.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Dern,
I'll second.
second by Mr. Vento. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Recognition of achievements in the community. Mayor Slagle.
Thank you. I have a couple, and it's always a pleasure to do this. And it always, I guess it shouldn't amaze me anymore at how this community can come together when necessary. I'm assuming everyone has heard about the fire down in Ramparts and Frontenac. Besides our police officers and fire companies and EMTs and all down there, the fire companies are all volunteers. Of course, the police are paid and the EMTs, but they were there. But what surprised me was I learned that there were several neighbors, citizens, that jumped in to help. Butch Bankert, a neighbor, provided a ladder and an axe until the fire companies got there. Jacob Matter is a physician's assistant, and when they rescued the woman that was trapped inside, he provided assistance. Bill Oblock, another neighbor, provided assistance. Taylor Oblock, same thing. There was Carrie Skikina, who's a nurse and rendered aid and helped the EMTs, and Justin Civic, who also assisted. They didn't have to do anything. Wasn't their job. But they all stepped up, and that's what's great about our community. Plum, it comes together when needed. And another recent example is with the fundraisers for Nesbitt Lanes. Rich Nesbitt and the family over there, as well as a lot of the restaurants here in Plum, whenever they're approached by organizations for donations, for discounts or whatever, they provide it, they give it. And now it's time to pay those people back. And this community got some, I can't say national attention, but certainly regional attention, stepping up for Rich Nesbitt's. That's the community that we are. Everybody else may be divided, and we may have our differences when it comes to politics, but this community comes together. And Michael, if I'm wrong, our slogan is one great big borough, one
big, great, small borough.
One big, great, small borough. Thank you. And that's true. We're large in area, but our values are small town. So I've been working with the borough staff here, and we wanted to do something last year, and that was going to be coffee with the mayor. This would be an informal thing where we were going to have some people from the borough. Well, that's been put on hold because of COVID. Another thing that we're going, and it comes right down to this issue. This is the heart of the matter. The borough staff came up. I threw an idea out, and they kind of fleshed it all out and came up with it. and it's called, it'll be called Boro's Soul.
Serve.
Pardon me?
Serve. S-E-R-V-E.
Oh, Boro's Serve, thank you. I'm mistaken, Boro's Serve. That's what we do. And the only way you're going to get recognized for that one is the person that has helped. Not the person doing the helping, not the person taking somebody a senior to their doctor's appointment, but that individual has to contact me and say, this person needs to be recognized because they've done outstanding stuff. Not a one-time deal. I want to showcase these people that are out there and giving of their time and resources freely. So Boro Serve is going to be a program that we have here. I don't know, maybe we'll get a t-shirt or something for you, but you're going to get public recognition. And again, not a one-time deal. You got to be doing it for a while. You can't call me up and say, Mayor, I've been helping this person for weeks or for months or for years. That person is the one that has to call. And a final thing, I do like to do proclamations. But I don't know everything that's going on in the community. So the borough staff has developed a series of guidelines that will be put on our website where you can request a proclamation for an accomplishment or the recognition of someone in the community. Family member, a marriage, 25, 50 years, some accomplishments. I'd love to recognize that. 100 years old, 100-year birthday. I've done 2 of those. Somebody that's served the community for 60 years, Meals on Wheels, whatever. I want to recognize that. That's what makes Plum Boro unique and Plum Boro great. Thank you. Oh, one final thing. It's that time. I'm going to read this off, guys. Have you ever got an offer from anybody? These thoughtful citizens, and I jokingly say that, but Monica Rupert, who is one of our police officers' mothers, brought in a cookie tray from Oakmont Bakery to thank the officers for their service to the community. And again, I didn't get a phone call. Patrick Clancy contacted Councilman Dern and provided gift certificates to John Anthony's restaurants for a couple of our officers for their response and actions for a vehicle crash into a utility pole. Mark Reed brought in 2 monthly treats to the police department. Mark provided the officers with a cookie tray, and then he brought in cheesecakes. And again, I didn't get a phone call. Tony Veltri stopped Officer Luther at Veltri's Banquet Center and provided him with 3 gift certificates, one for each of the patrol division crews to show his appreciation for our department's continued services. And finally, Patricia Ann Bruner delivered sandwiches to the Public Works Department in appreciation of the work they did during the recent snowstorm. That's what kind of community we live in, people. It's fantastic. And that's all I have, sir.
Hey, thank you so much, Mayor.
Did you get any sandwiches, Mayor?
I got nothing, not even a phone call.
Just want to keep it consistent there.
What's that tell you?
Take the hint.
Yeah, you sure can't take a hint.
Well, thank you, Mayor. Moving on with our agenda, civic announcements. And if we have anyone here, doesn't look like it. So we'll move on to President's comments. I did want to give an update on the Stormwater Task Force. The Stormwater Task Force did meet on January 21st of 2021. Some of the items that we discussed include the review of the status of proposed long-term solutions, specifically the progress on the O-Block Key West project, which has completed the actual joint permit to PEMA and DEP. And PEMA has already contacted the borough to request additional information and support of the grant proposal that we put in for that. The permit for the Center Beach project will be submitted by the end of January, which has already taken place. And there's already discussions being had relative to the land acquisition for the Center Beach project. We also discussed a number of issues that were brought to the attention of the Stormwater Task Force, either by emails to the task force or information being sent directly to council. One of those items is associated with a request for an update on the Malabar Drive closure. We are currently working on the design and the required permits for the Malabar culvert repairs. This will be done as a 3-stage repair process, and from the time of commencing those repairs, it's expected to take approximately 6 months to complete. We believe the estimated time for completion of the project is October 1st of 2021. So we recognize that, you know, it's an inconvenience to residents who use that road to get to various areas within the borough, but we hope to try to accelerate that process if at all possible. But right now, the expected date of completion for those repairs and reopening of Malabar Drive is October 1st. The task force also discussed a number of potential improvements for stormwater credit programs. 3 specific programs were discussed: Adopt an Inlet, the Rain Barrel program, and an urban tree canopy expansion. The task force believes that the most applicable program for implementation would be the Rain Barrel program, which was also discussed by the task force back in the October meeting. The desire is to work to implement this program in the spring of 2021. With respect to the tree canopy expansion program, the task force recommended discussing that information with Councilman Delaney, who's actually working to implement a formal tree commission. And that particular program seemed to align very well with the efforts that Councilman Delaney has in that regard. The task force also discussed objectives for 2021. The primary objective of the task force for this year was going to be to address the issues surrounding stormwater detention pond ownership. As such, that item is going to be a standing agenda item for all future meetings. We also discussed the date for the next public meeting, as well as potential agenda item topics. It looks like right now the tentative date of Saturday, April 24th has been selected, and the agenda topics that were considered included an update on the long-term projects, the MS4 program overview, Rain Barrel program, stormwater retention ponds, planned habitat demo at Larry Mills Park. So more information will be provided as we continue to flesh out the agenda for the next public meeting. But as I said before, the tentative date for that meeting will be Saturday, April 24th. There's also a task force member position vacancy. Our previous task force member, Mr. Kerry Cole, had requested his resignation from the task force due to some of the additional responsibilities associated with his full-time career and his active role as the Renton Fire Chief. So the task force certainly thanks Mr. Kerry for all the time and effort he put into assisting Plum to implement needed stormwater mitigation efforts. But we wanted to make notice of the vacant task force position and invite anyone who has an interest in submitting an email to the task force requesting to be appointed to the Stormwater Task Force. And the next meeting is tentatively scheduled for February 25th. That's all I have for President's comments, and we'll move on to citizen comments on agenda items.
We have nobody signed up this evening.
Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to council actions. On behalf of the Planning and Economic Development Committee, Mr. Vento.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the Planning and Economic Development Committee, I move to approve the Plum Boro Consolidation Plan, FSC-09-20, contingent upon the final review and approval of the borough engineer.
We have a motion by Mr. Vento.
Second.
Second by Mr. Dern. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Also, on behalf of the committee, I move to approve FSC-08-20, the UHOS Consolidation Plan, same numbers, as recommended by the borough engineer.
Motion by Mr. Vento.
Second.
Second by Mr. Hadley. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Also, on behalf of the committee, I move to adopt resolution number 896-21, approving a sewage planning module for the municipal center.
Motion by Mr. Vento,
Seconded.
second by Mr. Dern. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
On behalf of the committee, I move to approve the St. John the Baptist parking lot expansion, preliminary/final land development plan, SP-Z03-20, conditioned upon the following items. So stay with me here, guys, there's a lot of them. So the applicant must obtain an NPDES permit. The applicant must submit an O&M agreement. The applicant must address the concerns of the borough traffic engineer. The applicant must obtain an HOP from the Allegheny County for the Unity Center Road entrance. The existing entrance, also the applicant must check on the existing entrance to the site from Unity Center Road will only be used to access the rear of the Millers Lane properties. The final approval of the borough engineer's latest written review was dated January 17th, 2021. The application must formally request that the borough vacate the existing right-of-way on St. John's Street, and the applicant must enter into a development agreement with the borough. Also, the applicant will need approvals for the proposed Phase 2 building at a later date.
We have a motion by Mr. Vento,
Seconded.
second by Mr. Dern. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
On behalf of the committee, I move to grant preliminary/final land development approval for the Matt Machine Shop addition, SP-05-20, contingent upon the applicant entering into a development agreement with the borough.
Motion by Mr. Vento,
Second.
second by Mr. Hadley. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
On behalf of the committee, I move to grant conditional use to Veltri's Italian Kitchen, CU-02-20, as takeout-only restaurant as recommended by the staff.
Motion by Mr. Vento,
Seconded.
second by Mr. Dern. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
On behalf of the committee, I move to approve the Veltri's Italian Kitchen Takeout Restaurant preliminary/final land development plan, SP-06-20, conditioned upon the following items. The applicant must enter into a development agreement with the Plum Boro Municipal Authority. Allegheny County will also need to approve the proposed sewage plan. 2, the applicant must enter into a development agreement with the borough. 3, the final applicant and approval of the borough engineer.
Motion by Mr. Vento,
Second.
second by Mr. Hadley. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
On behalf of the Planning Commission, I move to accept the Addison/Horner lot line revision, FSC-01-20, as complete. That might be Honer, I'm not sure. Honer, there's no R in it.
Motion by Mr. Vento,
Second.
second by Mr. Doyle. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And last but certainly not least, I move to authorize the submission of a CITF grant application for Holiday Park Phase 3 Stormwater Project.
Motion by Mr. Vento,
Seconded.
second by Mr. Dern. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I'm done, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vento. On behalf of the Personnel Management Committee, Mr. Hadley.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the Personnel and Management Committee, I move to appoint Vicki Rossler to the Planning Commission for a one-year term ending December 31st, 2021.
We have a motion by Mr. Hadley,
Seconded.
second by Mr. Dern. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No. One.
One opposed. Do we need a roll call, Mr. Thomas?
That's at your discretion, Mr. Odom.
Roll call, sir.
Mr. Delaney,
Aye.
Mr. Dern,
Yes.
Mr. Doyle,
Yes.
Mr. Hadley,
Yes.
Mr. Odom,
Yes.
Mr. Pastor,
Yes.
Mr. Vento.
No.
Motion carries.
Thank you, sir.
On behalf of the Personnel and Management Committee, I move to adopt Resolution 897-21 for the destruction of certain municipal records.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Hadley, second by Mr. Vento. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I have
And
a
that is
question on that. Can we instruct to have somebody contact the tax collector? Because they have records over there that need to be destroyed as well.
Mr. Mayor, those records are included in the resolution.
Thank you.
Thank you,
That is
Mr.
all.
Hadley.
Thank you.
On behalf of Roads, Equipment, and Grounds Committee, Mr. Pastor.
Thank you, Mr. Odom. On behalf of the Roads, Equipment, and Grounds Committee, I move to award the special inspection and testing services for the Borough Building Project to PA Soil and Rock Incorporated.
Motion by Mr. Pastor.
Second.
Second by Mr. Doyle. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
On behalf of the committee, I move to award the 2021 paving contract to A. Felino Construction Incorporated in the amount of $872,540.21, contingent upon the engineer's final review and recommendation.
Motion by Mr. Pastor.
Seconded.
Second by Mr. Dern. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Pastor. That concludes council actions. Moving on with our agenda, Mayor's report. Mayor Slagle.
Thank you. Last month, we had 641 calls for services during the month of December. Well, actually, during the month of January. And each month, it has decreased. So, and there's various types, and I make those available if somebody wants them. I will not read them. The most important thing I've got here is that on January 7th, Sergeant Dubinsky, Officer Rupert, DeMarco, Luther, and Brandt, they're the ones that responded to that fire on Frontenac Road and rescued that lady from there. I spoke with the chief, and he has put those gentlemen, those officers, in for several accommodations for each of the officers. I wanted to have a public presentation of those accommodations. However, all the officers said they'd just as soon not do it publicly. The way they look at it is part of their job. Part of your job is showing up at your scheduled time and leaving at your scheduled time. But these are police officers, so they don't know what they're going to encounter, and when they do, they've stepped up each and every time, and these officers did that. So I mentioned their names, and they are going to receive commendations. But it's going to be a private ceremony between the chief, myself, and those officers. Again, I'd like to do it publicly. They need to be recognized, and our community need to recognize these officers, but we'll accede to their wishes. And that, sir, is all I have.
Thank you, Mayor. Moving on to committee reports. The Intergovernmental Cooperative Committee with the Plum School District. I haven't been contacted by anyone on the school board. Mr. Vento, I don't know if you've heard or received any correspondence from them.
I haven't, no.
Okay, then we'll move on to the Finance Committee. Mr. Doyle.
Thank you, Mr. President. Short one tonight, 3 items. Meyer Drusel, our independent auditor, is currently performing field work associated with the 2020 audit. It includes auditing all of the borough funds in the real estate tax office. We expect receiving a draft audit report for review during the month of April. Fiscal year 2021, the borough has a tax anticipation note with Standard Bank totaling $1.5 million. To date, we have yet to draw down any funds, but expect to be drawing down during the month of May. For the month of January, general fund revenues totaled $761,082, and expenditures were $1,246,889. Some of the larger expenditures that are not employee-related for that period were general insurance, $104,815, independent audit, $20,000, police uniform allowance, $23,100, salt, $118,228, and street light electricity of $23,432. And that is the end of my report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Doyle. Roads, Equipment, and Grounds, Mr. Pastor.
Thank you. Project updates for the month of January are as follows. The East Oakmont Stormwater Project is ongoing. The contractor has completed all the work on Lincoln Avenue and along Halton Road. The property dispute has been settled with the resident on Halton Road, and the contractor is proceeding with the work through that property and on Pennsylvania Avenue. Community Development is working on a grant for next year for the stormwater project. The project will most likely take place in the Holiday Park area. The bid advertisement has been put out for the 2021 paving project, and the bid will be opened Thursday, February 4th. Road maintenance updates for last month. We did work and renovations to fencing at Plum Creek Park, and we also demoed dugouts for the building of new ones. We met with HRG Engineering about the MS4 program. The department will be working closely with the firm for the work that needs to be completed under our current permit. Winter road maintenance resulted in a total of 292.25 hours of overtime. We used approximately 900 tons of salt. We trimmed trees overhanging the cartway to reduce damage to plow trucks. We fabricated and installed security fencing for the police department off-site for secure record storage. We will begin patching potholes with cold patch materials. We repaired numerous mailboxes due to damage from heavy snow coming off of the plow trucks. We've begun ordering materials for the upcoming in-house stormwater projects, and we installed new street signs where necessary. End of report.
Thank you, Mr. Pastor. Public Safety, Mr. Dern.
Thank you, Mr. Odom. It's that time of the year again. Lent is coming, so I have some information from the fire departments regarding fish fries this year. Logan's Ferry is going to be takeout only every Friday from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. and Good Friday, 11 to 8 p.m. And they're asking that you do pre-orders if you can, because they expect to be very busy. So they have 2 phone numbers here, and you can pre-order every Thursday from 6 to 8 p.m. And those phone numbers, both area codes are 724. First one's 337-01991. And the second number is 339-2210. Holiday Park will be takeout and delivery, and they're beginning on Ash Wednesday and every Friday. And those hours for Ash Wednesday and Good Friday are 11:30 to 7:30. And then every Friday during Lent, it'll be 11:30 to 1:30, and dinner will be 4:30 to 7:30. And one big change for Holiday Park this year is they are accepting credit cards. And I'm sorry to say Renton did not respond to the email, so I don't know if they're doing it or not. If I get that information, I will forward that. And that is all I have. Mr. Maloney from Plum EMS, if you'd come up and read your report, please.
Thank you, Councilman Dern. Brian Maloney, Director of Operations, Plum EMS. As always, I appreciate the opportunity to speak. For the month of January, we ended up running a total of 253 calls, which resulted in 149 transported to the hospital. We ended up going to neighboring communities 14 times, with 10 of those resulting in transports to the hospital as well. And the need to have mutual aid assistance come into Plum, because we were on another detailer or call, happened 9 times, which is about 3.8% of the time EMS is needed. We had to call our neighboring agencies. So it was a steady month. Our COVID numbers had started going down because December we had quite a few. January was half of that, and so far for February, those numbers are still decreasing. So that's I love that sign, at least for us. For other things occurring is that we actually do our best to try to work with the community as much as possible. As an example, we work with the police department right now, training CPR and first aid, Narcan training, stop the bleed. But we also developed a relationship with the school district in which they invited us to participate in their last crisis prevention de-escalation training. This was a nonverbal training in which we did online. There was about 4 or 5 of us from Plum EMS who did it, and there was probably about 30-some people that participated from the school district. And it really worked with us and focused on how to de-escalate the events, because they work with students, and it was great examples, but we can walk into an incident where out of nowhere things can be heightened. And so it was great training, and what a good relationship that we have with the school district. So I'm really looking forward to that to continue. And for our subscriptions, they're in the mail. And if they're not in the mail today, they'll be tomorrow. So please keep your eye open for them. We always appreciate everybody's support. So questions, comments, gripes, concerns, complaints?
I have a recommendation for you.
Yes.
With this de-escalation of tense situations, I think Mr. Dern would be very helpful in that situation.
Wait, is that to escalate or de-escalate?
Oh, I thought you said escalate. My bad, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so thank you very much. I appreciate it.
I'm glad it's your turn in the barrel.
At least I'm good at something.
Is that all, Mr. Dern?
That's it. I'm
Okay.
sorry. Thank you.
Thank you. Planning and Economic Development, Mr. Vento.
Thank you, Mr. Odom. There were 37 permits issued and $3,716.50 in revenue taken in over the past month. There were numerous Planning Commission things that went on, but we did approve most of them tonight, so that being said, I'll forget that part of it. So Zoning Hearing Board, the Zoning Hearing Board did not meet in January. The staff, however, met with new Zoning Hearing Board member to distribute materials and discuss the zoning process. There was numerous meetings. Examples are staff inspected property on Lindsay Lane in reference to possible sale and zoning use for the property. And they met with the group interested in building homes off of Lindsay Lane. Call with KU Resources to review status of PC reviews, materials, etc. As Planning Commission reviews, I'm sorry, I should spell that out. Staff met to discuss web page updates for the ASA information. That's the agricultural security area that we're forming here in Plum. And a Zoom call to discuss MS4 issues. I think we're all familiar with MS4. That's the ponds that have to be in compliance with this ordinance in the borough. That's all that was on that. And then code enforcement issues. 41 occupancy inspections, addressed 21 complaints concerning garbage, junk, and debris, failure to obtain occupancy permits, and abandoned vehicles. Various miscellaneous items not really worth mentioning until they become something else. And that being said, that's all I have to say tonight. I think I've said enough on the other part, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Vento. And finally, Parks and Recreation, Mr. Delaney.
Thank you, Mr. President. Not too much going on at Parks and Rec, but I wanted to give everybody an update on what's going on with some borough HAPS events coming up. Unfortunately, due to group size limits, we'll be unable to hold our February family winter movie night in council chambers. Looking ahead a little bit in April, we're still making plans for our second drive-through extravaganza. More details to be released. And we're still looking to hold a kids trout fishing event and also a cleanup day in April, obviously COVID depending. And I would encourage everybody to sign up for Savvy Citizen as well. I know they sent out a wonderful trash alert last week to let us know that our things are going to be delayed right after I got my cans to the curb. And that would be it for me, Mr. President.
Never happy.
Great,
Never
thank
happy.
you. Thank you, Mr. Delaney. That includes committee reports. The Planning Commission will meet on Monday, February 22nd, 2021. And now we have citizen comments on non-agenda items. Before I get started with the individuals who have signed up, I did want to note a mistake that I made on my part relative to citizen comments on agenda items. There was one that was sent in to me by a resident relative to the motion on the St. John the Baptist Church land development application. So I apologize, please charge it to my head, not my heart. But I did want to at least reflect the information that the resident was concerned about relative to that motion. It has to do with the process used to review the St. John the Baptist parking lot expansion. At the virtual January 18th, 2021 Planning Commission meeting, KU Resources prepared and presented a parking lot expansion plan on behalf of a private developer, as evidenced by the KU Resources logo and the prepared by block on the plan presented at the meeting. KU Resources also reviewed the parking lot expansion plan on behalf of Plum Boro as the borough's consulting engineer. The fact that the representatives of KU Resources are from two different offices is irrelevant, as they are both employed by KU Resources. KU Resources is free to represent private developers, but the industry standard for this situation is for the municipality to appoint an alternate engineer to perform the review to avoid a conflict of interest. It's very difficult to understand how a single firm can represent the best interests of Plum Borough, and a private developer at the same time. To avoid this issue in the future, Plum Boro should institute a policy to utilize an alternate engineer for plan review if the borough's consulting engineer performs work for a private developer within Plum Boro. And this is consistent with the protocol filed by municipalities in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So my comment to the resident who submitted this, and this was submitted by Ms. Trish Meek, is that the borough is going to take this information into consideration and advisement and work to address it on future basis. And now we'll move on to the specific non-agenda items. The first individual that I have is Christian Simons. Please, sir, state your name and address.
My name's Christian Simons. I'm a lifelong Plum resident. I live at 1987 O Block Road. Thanks for hearing me. I appreciate it, Mr. Mayor, council members. Basically, why I'm here is I kind of almost feel it's my civic responsibility to kind of pass on the information that I have seen in the past year. I was contacted by a company called Enviro21. I have a small paving company based in Plum, and they do what's called a reverse auction. And what I have seen, they asked me to bid on a couple projects for a couple different municipalities. And before I agreed, I did my due diligence and some research on the company. And they have, from what I've seen, I don't know exact numbers, but the city of McKeesport, I believe Penn Township, maybe one other one, are saving considerable amounts of money on, it seems like, especially like the waste contracts. Over a term of contract, from what I'm understanding, it's in the millions on the term of contract, and it's something that I do believe could really benefit the taxpayers of Plum. So I just think it's something that council might consider to look into Enviro21, or have them maybe even come and speak at council. I just do believe that it's going to really, really save the taxpayers some money, and they do all their due diligence. They vetted all the contractors, so everybody that is bidding on the bids for the contracts are legitimate companies, are able to perform, and they kind of take care of a lot of responsibility and take a lot of the legwork off of council, or whoever is actually accepting the bids.
And the organization is Enviro21?
Enviro21, ENVIRO 21, I believe. And they're also a Plum-based company. I don't know these, I can't talk specifics with the numbers because I don't know. There's a couple news articles I read online about them, and just with the dealings that I had there with them, they were a really one-on-one company, very organized, very professional. And I just really thought, this is my first time in front of council, and I lived here my entire life, so bear with me, but I just thought it was my due diligence to pass this information on to hopefully you guys, and maybe some savings onto the taxpayers.
Yeah, well, thank you, sir.
Thank
yeah.
you.
Thank you for coming out.
Don't let it be your last time here,
Yeah,
okay?
exactly.
What's that, Mr. Spencer?
Don't let it be your last time here, all right?
I will make sure that. Do you remember me?
Yes, I do.
My man.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it, gentlemen.
Thank you, sir.
You too.
Terry
Segelson.
Segelson, thank you, sir. Just state your name and address for the record.
Terrence R. Segelson. My address now is 129 Rabbit Run Lane in Trader now. I'm in Monroeville, so 15146. My business, though, is still in Plum. So, and I'm actually just, it's the same, he and I have been talking about this, so I came up with him. I really think that's a good idea for Plum. I actually have used Enviro21 for my business to, I have a small contracting company. We service the real estate and banking industry, a lot of foreclosed properties and things of that nature. And I had one that had an underground storage tank in the backyard, which is sort of out of my realm of what I do. So I was having a hard time getting people to respond because it was a really small storage tank, not something that most people want to deal with. And through knowing, just from with him and through knowing the owners of Enviro21, he got me someone to get to take care of that. So it worked out pretty well. I just figured there's no there's really no harm, no foul to getting someone involved so you keep the costs down. So, and the thing I liked is it could potentially work two ways for small businesses in Plum. So it seems like something to consider. So that's about it.
Well, great. Well, thank you,
Thank you.
sir. I
Thank
appreciate you taking the time
Jerry,
to come out.
is your mother Nina?
Yes,
How is your mother and father doing?
she's doing well.
Retirement.
She's doing, yeah, she actually does some work for me now. She
Oh, good.
can't help herself. She just can't. So she can't, my sister's in Florida with the grandkids, so, which she can't get down there now, so she's sort of, that was one of her main reasons for retirement was to be a full-time grandmother, and since she can't do it now.
That's what I understood. Thank you.
She
Tell her I
said,
said
she
hi.
said to say hi to all you guys, so, for
Tell
sure.
her we said hi back.
Absolutely.
Okay, that is all we have on our agenda. I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Do we have any more executive session items?
We do not.
Then I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Mr. Dern, second by Mr. Doyle. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We are adjourned.